Hi everyone, Angus Campbell here, Wednesday the 25th of September. So I'm still awaiting the new oil seals, one for the main shaft sprocket and one for the timing shaft for the auto advance unit. They should be here in the next day or so. But in the meantime, we can continue with the crankcase preparation, in that I'm going to have a go at Lumi welding this left-hand crankcase half, just to fill in the remainder of the groove that was left by the conrod failure. As I said in the last video, let me show you here, the major damage was on this side up here, and that has been welded, probably TIG welded, I would have thought, and that's why on the outside you can see there's a bit of a scar with the repair, but they've done a good job on that. There was only a tiny puncture, but what I want to do to complete this is to, not from the point of view of maintaining the integrity of the case, because I think that's fine, but what I want to do now is just to fill in the remainder of the groove. Let me just zoom you in a little bit there with Lumi Weld, which should be good enough to do that, and there it is. So it's just from here to here, so not much to do. I've never done Lumi welding before, but it seems pretty straightforward, and there's instructions that come with the kit. So let me get the tools ready, and then we'll get the blowtorch on to begin heating this up. I believe the major trick is not to blowtorch the Lumi weld itself, or the rod, but just to ensure that the component that we're applying it to is hot enough to keep the weld liquid while we're working it. And there's not much to do here. Also, the other key is to make sure this is well prepared. It's already been very well cleaned up, and also has had an ultrasonic clean, as you know, but there is a little stainless steel brush that is supplied you with to really prepare this surface for to improve its adhesive qualities before we get on with the welding. So let me get the tools together, just read up on the instructions a little more, and we'll get cracking. So what I've purchased is a small Lumi Weld kit, and that comes with 5 of these welding rods, a fine abrading stick, which I believe is stainless steel, and stainless steel brush. The stainless steel brush is to prepare the surface to ensure that we improve as much as possible adhesive qualities, and the smaller abrader is so that when you initially lay a thin layer of Lumi Weld across all the surfaces before we layer up the bead, then we apparently need to use the abrader just to scratch off any oxides that begin to form on the adhesive surface. It looks just like a piece of piano wire to me, so nothing special at all. So the key thing, as I say, is to ensure that we prepare this with the steel brush, that we heat this component. It says up to 380 degrees centigrade, which sounds an awful lot to me. I'm going to try and do that with the blowtorch, and blast the reverse side of the case, because, as I say, one of the keys as well is not to heat the Lumi Weld direct, but to heat the working piece, so that the working piece itself melts the Lumi Weld, not the flame from the blowtorch. So we'll get the blowtorch running and get this well heated up, get the gloves and the goggles on, and then we'll see how we get on, and I'll zoom you in to try and demonstrate how it's going. So the blowtorch is on, ready to go, not heating up the piece as yet. I've just done a quick test, and this alley casting does heat up very, very quickly, so we should be able to leave the blowtorch just stood on the bench on the heating up the reverse side of the piece, and that will give us plenty of heat to work this side away from the flame. So first thing is just to use the stainless steel brush to give this a good scraping down. And actually, you might not be able to see that too well, but it is actually slightly polishing up the alley. I can actually see that, even though we've already cleaned this aluminium well in the ultrasonic cleaner. It looks like new already, but there's just a slight change in colour. It's just a little bit brighter on the casting area where I've been brushing it, so it's obviously having some effect. And actually, this might be a good brush to brighten up the aluminium, the exterior surface of this for restoration purposes. So we'll have to think about that. It's quite a good brush, right? So we'll get the just scan you out a bit now. We'll get the blowtorch behind, and then we'll wait. Zoom it back in. And then I'll have one hand with the abrader and one with Lumi weld. But I should think it's going to take a little while before this will be hot enough to melt the weld. We'll give this a little while. If there's no success, we might have to bring the blowtorch a little closer. As I say, not to ensure that we don't point the blowtorch directly at the Lumi weld area. What I'm also going to do as well is just heat up the area to repair first to get some heat in it. Try and retain the heat in there by leaving the blowtorch on at the back. Okay, no success the first attempt, and that's because the blowtorch that I'm using just isn't getting enough heat into this case, and the heat's dissipating too quickly, so it's not getting up to temperature. So I've got an alternative idea. I do have quite a powerful paraffin blowtorch, a vintage one, but my goodness does that get some heat on. So I'll just prepare that and I'll bring you back. Okay, there she be, paraffin blowtorch. So I'll just get the all the fluids topped up on this, and we'll light this and we'll see how we get on with this. So this blowtorch works on the Primus principle. So you heat it up, heat the nozzles up initially by flaming methylated spirits, and then you pump paraffin through the hot nozzle at a high temperature, and the paraffin will vaporize and ignite, and then the ignited paraffin keeps the nozzle hot. So the main paraffin reservoir at the bottom now is about half full of paraffin. We put some priming methylated spirits in the top here, which will now light, and this will heat the nozzle inside here. And then once it's getting fairly hot, we'll start to build the pressure up inside the canister and see if the paraffin will ignite. But if you're an old scout like myself, then you'll have been brought up on Primus stove and have no fear of them, which I don't. I do have a pricker somewhere for the nozzle if we need it, but let's see how we get on once we've lit this. So we'll clear everything out of the way, and now I just need to find the lighter and we'll get this lit. Okay, found the lighter, so let's get cracking. So we'll light the meths. There we go, that is lit. You can't see it very well, but it is lit. And we just need to be patient with this. And let that burn almost down, so we know there's plenty of heat in the nozzle before we then attempt to pump paraffin up and pressurize it. And the idea is that you leave just enough lit meths in the bottom there to ignite the paraffin once you start pressurizing. Just takes a few minutes for the meths to burn off. What we'll do is close the valve now in the paraffin container, and then the heat that's being generated will be enough just to begin to build up a little tiny bit of pressure, which actually it is already. And there you can hear there's some paraffin vapour coming through already, and occasionally beginning to ignite. Okay, so the paraffin's now lit. We'll just let that warm up a little more first. Hasn't run for a while, this. Okay, we'll begin to heat the case up. Okay, I've just restarted the blowtorch, having cleaned out the jets, and it's giving me a much hotter flame now, so we'll see where we go from here. Right, new blowtorch ready for the job, with mass gas and with a hotter flame for brazing, which is exactly what we want. So we'll see now if we can get some enough heat into that case without it dissipating too much, so we can do the Lumi welding. So let me get you set up again and we'll give it a crack. Okay, we're all set up, ready to go. So we've got a Lumi weld rod, we've got the stainless steel cleaning brush, and we've got the simple abrader wire to remove the aluminium oxide layer that forms underneath the Lumi weld initially, and scraping that and removing that allows the Lumi weld to adhere better to the existing aluminium. So first thing first, again, just give it another quick clean up, although it was only done recently. And on with the new torch, and we'll begin heating up the area to an acceptable temperature. And in using this propane torch, this is ideal for brazing, and what we're aiming to do here is get the temperature hot enough to melt the Lumi weld brazing rod, but obviously not too hot whereby we begin to melt the crankcase, so that would be fairly disastrous. So let's get cracking. Okay, it's beginning to go. Okay everyone, we seem to have got the job done, but I hasten to add that that is not the recommended way of really Lumi welding. The problem that I had was that I just couldn't get enough heat into the case itself because it was dissipating too much probably, and therefore I did have to use the torch directly on the Lumi weld as well, which you're not supposed to do. However, it's not turned out too bad, and on the basis that we weren't trying to knit and provide some, well, knit surfaces together and provide additional strength and integrity, we're just trying to fill a bit of a groove, then I'm fairly pleased with the way that this has turned out. We did have to get it immensely hot though, but we haven't damaged the rest of the case, and that cleans up okay. So I will probably just lightly dress that just to tidy up the edges a little, but I was using the abrader all the time, and it does appear to have adhered with some strength to the original surface. So what we'll do now is just clean that up a little, and then we'll move on to the I'll move back to the oil seals, because the replacement oil seal that we ordered for the gearbox main shaft final drive sprocket has arrived, and we'll now attempt to fit that properly without bending it as we did with the other two. So I'll just clean this up, and then we'll get the crankcase into position to insert that oil seal. Okay, I'm fairly pleased with that. There's still one or two low spots, but it's much better than it was, and as you can see from the grinding, then the Lumi weld has adhered very well. So it's worked out in the end, but as I say again, that's not really the correct way of Lumi welding, but we've got away with it. Okay, right, on to the next job, which is to firstly fit the I'm just hesitating actually. I said earlier on in this episode that we'd got a replacement oil seal for the gearbox main shaft sprocket, but we've already fitted that. The replacement that I required was the oil seal that fits the other side of the main roller bearing on the left hand case, to keep the oil inside the crankcase and prevent it seeping and filling up the primary chain case, which is separate on these. So let's turn this case over, and we'll try and get this replacement seal fitted without damaging it this time, so third time lucky. So here's the rim that we need to fit the oil seal into. You can see, as I said before, originally when these were fitted at the factory, then they centre punched the edge to keep the seal in position. So before we'll start, we'll just dress that edge up very, very slightly, and then we can always re-centre punch when we're finished. So let me do that first. And apologies, I haven't got the stand at the moment, so I'll just have to do work with both hands in between, showing you what's going on. Right, there we are. We've improvised with the stand, so the phone in its holder is now sat on top of the ultrasonic cleaner, so that's got more than one use now. So what I've done is just with a round file, a rat tail bastard I think is the correct technical term, I've just dressed off the edge, the seating edge for the seal. And what we'll do now is put a bit of lubricant on that, and then find something flat that is large enough to cover the whole of the surface of the back of the seal, such that as we're gently tapping it in, we don't damage it, and we're always against the flat surface of the whole of the seal, rather than before when I was just on one side or the other, and that actually bent the back metal support of the seal, and that was the problem we were having. Okay, I found the perfect drift actually. So I think because the rubber mallet diameter is a little more than the oil seal, and we can get it in there, and then we can use that basically as our drift. She's on her way. Sorry about the vibration. Nearly there. Perfect. I think we're there. All appears to be flush and even. And if we turn the case over, then we can see it's perfectly seated, it's flush, and it's going to be nowhere near the roller bearing. And also what I forgot to say obviously is that it's in the correct way around, so the spring of the seal is pointing inwards, which is correct. So all we need to do now then is just centre punch the edge, just so we got a little tiny overlap. And I'm following the original punch marks actually because they're acting as a good guide. So let me just bring you down here and I'll show you. And there it is, fitted flush. And you can see I've just re-punched where they've done it originally at the factory. And you can see now there's a very slight overlap where I've punched, slight indentation to hold that in place. It's nice and tight, not bent as before. So that's it, job done. So with that done, the Lumi weld done, we've got the bearing face done, the roller bearing for the roller bearing. So if we get the other side, there it goes, drops in. So we'll need to install that on the crank when we put together. That's a good fit. We've done the oil seal here. This is the oil seal on the main shaft sprocket side of it. And that means we're actually now ready to fit the cases together with the crank and the camshaft. So that'll be the job for the next episode. We'll leave that here for now. So that's crankcase preparation completed. Bit of a long slog, and please don't judge me too much on some of the technical prowess, especially with the Lumi weld, but it's worked out pretty well in the end. And I'm pleased with the results. So it's taken a bit of doing, but then the engine had a bit of shall we say, it's had a traumatic life, so we need to be careful about ensuring we've got everything replaced and repaired as far as possible, which we've done. So we'll leave it there for now. Crankcase preparation complete. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. Thanks to anybody that subscribes. I'm away for the next few days now. I'm going up to Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire to spend a couple of days up there for Classic Track Day and the final weekend meeting of the British Historic Racing Club attached to the Vintage Club. So I'll be doing a separate video for that when I get back, and then we'll after that we'll crack on with this, and we'll make the two cases together with the crank, and then we're on our way and thinking about installing that into the bike, which is still patiently waiting over there. Thanks again, everybody. See you again soon. Bye bye.